Koo. I'm your host, Jen Wilson, and today we are here as usual with our resident astrologer, Lauren Maxwell Matthews, and today we are joined by a tarot expert, Chiray Koo. We're looking forward to talking to her later on. Yep. So let's talk some woo-woo. So today we're talking tarot. The thing with tarot that's really fascinating is that it's the history. It comes all the way back to like the 13th century with the original deck. And they use it as playing cards, and then they started using it as a divination tool. And then another thing that's really cool about tarot is the art. That's something that everyone always really talks about, is the different arts that's all in all the different tarot cards. I mean, I've seen some that are with animals. I've seen some with aliens. It's amazing the amount of artwork that goes into these tarot cards. So just a little brief thing about tarot is there are 22 cards that are called the major arcana, which is going to be your major archetypes. Those are your big picture issues. So kind of if you look at it astrology, those are our long transits. And then you have 52 cards, which actually, if you're paying attention, goes to our now playing deck, which is called the minor arcana. And that is our everyday life, which is with the shorter transits. Since we're kind of going with tarot and astrology here, let's talk to Lauren real quick about how the tarot and the astrology kind of are melding together. So Lauren, how does astrology relate to tarot?
Well, astrology and tarot have been linked together for a really long time. If you look at the history of the tarot cards, especially starting around the 1800s, when you had a group called the Golden Dawn come together with the goal of really uniting tarot, astrology, numerology, the Kabbalah, all of these different groups, to show how all of these arts really are each other and they blend into each other, they started making specific developments, really, in how astrology and the tarot cards go together one-on-one. So every tarot card has its own association with a specific astrology sign and planet combination. Like you'd say Six of Cups is Venus and Scorpio, and that can give you a lot of insight astrologically if you speak that language on what it is that the energy of that card is bringing.
Okay, wow. So that's really fascinating. So tarot cards originally had an astrological aspect. Now I'm going to introduce us to our tarot expert, Chiray Koo, who actually has 3 decks of cards here, which she says doesn't have any astrological elements to them. So why is that? When did the change happen?
These are the more modern decks.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. There's 2 types of tarot readers. This is how it was explained to me by the manager at the Green Man store in North Hollywood.
Fantastic.
So you have people who traditionally, who understand the traditional meanings of the decks, because the decks were designed to be something of a map to the cosmos, basically.
Okay.
And so people who have studied it know exactly what you're talking about, the astrological implications and things like that. But you also have readers like myself who are more, I guess the word is intuitive readers.
Okay.
So like my cards came to me. I did not say I'm going to go out and I'm going to read tarot. My cards were actually given to me because in college I was doing a women's studies major and I was studying goddess-based religions as part of my women's studies major. And so a friend of mine who's a very intuitive person, for my birthday or Christmas or something, I can't remember now, but she just felt like, you know what? I think I should get Chiray tarot cards. And because she knew me, this is actually the deck that she gave me. This is the mythological deck.
So this is your very first deck of tarot cards?
This is my very first deck of tarot cards. And she got it for me because she knew me. And she knew that I study mythology, I think, in terms of metaphor and myths. And so she felt that this would be a type of deck that would work really well for me.
Okay.
And it does.
Okay, so you said there's a difference between intuitive reading and someone who just reads it basically by the book, for lack of a better word. Now, what is the difference between the two?
I don't know if it's by the book,
okay.
But the people who have studied it are more structured in their reading, I think is what it is. For me, when I got this deck, I studied the book. Okay. I tried, what does this mean? What do the cards mean? How does it mean differently when you place it? And because I'm mental, and at the time I was kind of rigid, it was very hard to make things flow.
Sure.
So when I finally was like, screw it, I'm not going to be mental anymore. I'm going to throw this out the window, and I'm just going to see what comes to me. All of a sudden, things made sense, and I could see things in the cards that I hadn't before. Like, okay, I'll tell you a funny story. When I was in college and one of my first readings, so we're all sitting there on the floor of my dorm room, and this guy's there with his girlfriend, and I'm putting out the cards, and this is when I decided I'm not going to be mental anymore. I'm going to see what comes to me.
Right.
So I'm looking at the cards, and I'm like, he's stepping out on his girl.
Oh.
And she's sitting right there. When you're like 20, 21,
right.
You don't know how to.
You have no filter on that at all.
No filter.
No,
so I'm like, well, gosh, you're going to have to make a really important decision because you've got two incompatible situations, right? And I'm trying to talk around it.
Very, very graceful. Yeah.
Yes. And
Were you right?
And what happened was he came up to me 3 weeks later and he goes, you remember that reading? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, I was actually dating 2 girls. I was like, yeah, I kind of figured that.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. Now you have 2 other decks here with you. Now what are these other 2 decks that you've got?
Well, this deck right here it's an animal deck. And it's because I'm a shaman and I have a shaman practice. And so the energies of animals speak to me. All animals have lessons to bring.
Sure.
And so that's why I use this deck because I really resonate with it.
Okay, great.
And then I have another deck here. This type of deck is called an oracle deck. So it's a little bit different. People don't actually use it to get a handle on situations in their lives. But oracle decks are more like advice. Like literally, I'm dealing with this, what kind of energy should I bring? And if this particular deck is based on goddess archetypes. Because it was designed by a woman, to bring more female energy into the world. So, sometimes like this one is Iduna, so she has goddesses from various traditions, and it's grow a garden and share the fruits. It's right, she's the keeper of the apples.
Right.
But it's basically, it's the idea, so maybe somebody, it's kind of hoarding with their energy. They're not really good at giving love. They take and they don't give. So that would be the
you use that kind of as a
pull.
daily kind of energy of what's going around.
Yeah, or I'll do it in readings at the very end, and I'll say to people, this is something to keep in mind for the next 3 months.
Now, speaking of that, are you cool with maybe possibly doing a quick reading for like Lauren?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great.
Wow.
Are you okay with that?
Of course.
Fantastic. Which deck would you prefer to use?
Well, you just want to do a general reading?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
You are the expert after all.
So, I laugh because a lot of the times when you talk about experts,
Sure.
it depends on the readers. Like, I try not to think of myself as an expert. Go ahead and shuffle, by the way. But readers are different. Like, notice I'm having her shuffle my cards.
Correct.
Because I like to have her energy on my cards.
Right.
You'll meet people who are they're very protective of their cards because they feel that other people's energy muddles their cards.
And I've also noticed that a lot of tarot people that I know put them in bags to keep them
Well,
clean.
I wrap
or
them.
You wrap them.
I wrap them
Okay.
in these cloths, and it is to keep them clean.
Okay.
The energy clean.
Great.
But it always depends on the person's personality.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to have you take your left hand, which is connected to your intuitive side, cut this into 3 piles.
All right.
And then put them back together however you like.
There we go.
Cool. So I'm just going to do a quick reading.
All right.
This is actually a spread that I think was developed by a friend of mine, Chris Oser. It's a really nice spread because it lets you take a look at where you are on the inside and the types of things that you're doing. So if you take a look at this, like right here, like this position kind of says where you are on the inside right now, like where your soul is at, like how you are feeling like connected to the universe, and you're in a really good place. Because if you look at this card, right, she's a queen. She's Omphale, so she was like the only queen in like a lot of the Greek myths who actually sat in her own power. She did not have a king.
Right.
She was in charge, and it was kind of like everything that she did, she manifested herself.
Nice.
So this is kind of saying this is where you are. Over here, this position is what you vision or what you're speaking out into the world. So this is you're kind of hiding a little bit of your light right now. That you actually have a lot of wisdom, but you're not speaking it, and for whatever reason.
Lauren, what are you holding back on the show? What astrology nuggets are you holding back on?
I think there are too many to list right now.
All right, let's see what else she's got.
And so this right here is what's in your heart space. This is kind of like what sets you on fire, what is it that is your passion, things that you like to do. And so if you take a look at this card, you kind of see how he's focusing on his goal because he's got all this turmoil underneath.
Yeah.
So it kind of would say that where you are right now is that maybe you're in a time of, I don't know, transition or maybe getting clear. So it could be like there's old stuff that needs to be wrapped up and there's like loose ends, like, because you know how it is. If you don't wrap up your loose ends, you kind of drag them behind you.
Yeah, and there's no room for the new.
And there's no room for the new, and they pick up dirt and things like that. So my sense of this would be that you're kind of at this space right now, that you have the turmoil here, but you're clear here, so you kind of need to get into that alignment, I guess, is the word I'm looking for.
Nice.
So then the idea is like, well, how does this manifest out into the world? Like, what are you creating, right? Like, in terms of from your heart space, what do you create? So if you take a look at this card right here, this is the card of Belfurion. And, Greek mythology aside, because all the Greek heroes were kind of jerks.
They were a little testy. Yes.
Yeah,
Are you
they
about to
were.
tell me that I'm manifesting
Yes.
as a jerk?
No, but I'm like, they all had too much testosterone. But if you take a look at it, the idea was he was somebody who explored new territories. He went out, he had, like, all the heroes had great adventures. But the idea behind him was that he was kind of driven by instinct, and he trusted himself. So part of what this is saying is that what you're doing right now is you're creating the things in your life from the way that you trust yourself. And that's actually the way that you should be. Like, I'm sure you have a lot of well-meaning people in your life giving you advice that actually isn't for you. Like,
Yeah,
you
but
know
I just
how
have
that
this
is.
instinct to listen to myself, which I have been doing, and ever since I've started, I mean, hey, look at where I am.
Yes.
Like, I'm doing
Exactly.
something I love with wonderful and amazing people.
Exactly. And so that's what it's saying. You're creating it, and it's just the right place. It's perfect for you. And then over here, this card is like what you're manifesting into the world. And so notice that the Pentacles have always been about like material stability. And so the 3 is actually a really good card because it's saying that you're doing what you love and it's going to create material stability for you. It is creating material stability.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
So now, Lauren, just real quick before we move into the world at large, do you find that kind of, how do you feel about what she just, is it, because I find it fascinating that she just pulled 5 cards, kind of told you what's going on in your life, and just a little bit that I know about you kind of seems almost freakishly dead on.
It really is. Like, I mean, not that I'm surprised because
Right.
let's face it, like the esoteric sciences are really called sciences
Absolutely.
for a reason.
Yes.
But yeah, I feel like all of it resonates, and I even know what you're talking about with like hiding things and with burying things underneath. And I'm just like, okay, as soon as she said it, I knew exactly what that
Telling you,
meant.
The woo-woo is strong in
It
this
is.
room right now.
And the one thing I do want to say is notice I didn't sit there and try to pry for details. Like,
No.
oh, it's talking about this or that.
Absolutely not, which is why I was like, oh wow, that's really impressive. Because sometimes they're like, so is this kind of where, am I going in the right direction? So that was really cool. So with that, let's now turn this all on to our little speed round for, woo-woo in the world. A lot of crazy stuff's been going on. The one that has kind of hit most recently is the thing with Kanye West and him taking back the Confederate flag for his Yeezus, is it Yeezus? Am I
Yeezus.
pronouncing that correctly? His Yeezus tour, what is that called? Swag. I don't think swag's the right word, but yeah, there we go. His jacket. So all of his stuff is going to have the Confederate flag on. He's going to take the Confederate flag back on. So just really quickly, ladies, if you don't mind, if you'd pull a card or two to see what the energy is around that, if you're cool with that, and you astrologically, what is this?
What is this? All right. Well, Kanye, first of all, anytime that an individual person starts doing something, it's because they've really got energies working on them in the universe. Usually harder, and by harder, I mean outer planets, because they're slower moving, they last longer, they make a big impact on our lives. So right now what we've got going on, as we talked about last week, all of this Scorpio stuff, that's still in play. If you look at Kanye West's astrological chart, he has Uranus at 8 degrees Scorpio. That's right where Mercury, the
all happening.
Saturn,
It's all
North
happening,
Node,
yep.
the Sun, all of it's right
Okay.
there. So with these current transits in the sky making aspect to this thing in his natal chart, he's showing off his Uranus. It's making it come into the public light.
Okay,
And Uranus is weird, it's unpredictable, people don't get it. And
that's
if you
a
look at
little
Kanye,
unpredictable.
it
That's
is.
a little
And if you look at what he
unpredictable.
said himself, he doesn't even seem to know exactly how he's explaining it yet. He just did it.
He just did it, and it's a bold move that I'm almost impressed by, but I'm not really sure how I feel about it yet. Okay, well, you pulled a couple of cards here for the energy around this, Chiray. So what briefly do we have on that?
Well, notice that the cards that we have here are actually really powerful cards.
Yeah?
Because he's got Turtle, Mother Earth, the world. Okay, and here's the thing. In Native American tradition, a lot of times people call the Earth Turtle Island, right? Because we are Turtle Island. The turtle is the Earth. It's a very primal force.
Correct.
You also have over here, you have a tortoise.
So we get the turtle and the tortoise.
And the tortoise. And tortoises are the land version. They're very strong. I mean, here's the thing. Tortoises live for 100 of years.
Right.
This is about long view. This is about power.
Okay.
And then the other animal here is the moose. Again, the most powerful of the deer. Like, a moose decides to run you down, you get out of the way.
Right.
Right.
I mean, let's not kid ourselves. If we can actually change anything about the Confederate flag, that would be fantastic, because it's just really, it's just, there's so much negative stuff going around.
Well,
anyway,
I will
so
say
if we could
this.
change that, that'd be fantastic.
I feel like what Kanye is doing is forces are moving through him, but he made the decision to do it, obviously. But it's basically, this is kind of about a healing.
Good.
That's what this is. If you look at these energies, it's about a healing of something that has been very divisive, and he's actually somebody powerful enough. I mean, I'm not talking just in terms of money, but I'm talking personality-wise.
Absolutely.
Being able to stand in himself. he can do it in a way that other people would not. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, in fact,
yeah.
I noticed, if I can just comment really quick intuitively on the card, you know, you mentioned how powerful the moose is, but the moose is a vegetarian creature. This is not a predator. This is not a creature
None
that
of
wants
these
to
are
harm
predators.
others. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
And
none of them are.
so we're just going to move real quickly. So our next one, much quicker, because we're getting the wrap-up sign. We actually found out today, and not today, but this week, that in Japan they now have an artificial womb. So I'm getting some matrix action going on. So quickly, astrologically.
Astrologically, Saturn and Pluto coming together, transformation of absolute material reality, what the physical reality of our existence is. This is a marking in the human race, very in conjunction with Uranus, 2012, everything that's going on right now. We are moving into a new phase. We are now able to create life on a whole other level, and we can really see that reflected in the stars. If you look at the stars as a map of how our evolution is going to unfold over time.
Great. And you pulled, did you pull one card right there? Mm-hmm. What do we got?
Crow energy.
Crow energy.
Crow energy. Crow energy is about magic. It's about transformation. It's also, depending on your tradition, crow is also about going back into history and trying to see where we are going.
Okay.
So basically, we're like you were saying, it's a new phase.
It's a new phase. Fantastic. And just in a real quick, we're going to do a really quick one with a viewer who called in. She gave us her chart. Just do a real quick. We got 30 seconds. Go.
All right, real quick. Basically, the main thing we've got going on for this woman is she's got everything tying into the Scorpio energy too. Right now, I'm so sorry. I can know how to pronounce your name at this second. Right now, what we've got going on for you is you're going to be having an ego transformation. Your ability to communicate and to speak is really going to transform. So focus on writing, focus on reconnecting with your family, say things that you need to say. The universe is on your side for that right now.
Okay, fantastic. And Chiray has pulled a couple of cards. Let's just do a quick overview of what you're seeing there.
Quick overview is what I'm seeing is, and on the inside, you're blossoming. Right?
Great.
But also,
Congratulations.
but also what you also want to get is that there are cycles. So if you want everything now, that's not going to happen because everything goes through the cycles. If you think of spring, summer, fall, winter, there is a natural cycle to life. So you have to understand and be patient with yourself. And if it looks like you're going backwards, you're not really going backwards. It's all part of the cycle.
All part of the cycle. Well, there we go. It's all part of the cycle, as in with everything with Woohoo. There's always a cycle going on that we're paying attention to. So thank you so much for joining us. We've really enjoyed our time. Chiray, thank you so much for coming and joining us and telling us about your cards. They've been amazing.
Thanks for
and
having
everything you've taught us. And Lauren, as usual, it's always fun to hear your insights astrologically. And next week, we are hopefully going to be talking about some Uranus and Pluto square action and all sorts of other goodies. So please stay tuned, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thanks so much. For more weekly woo-woo, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to us on emPOWERme.tv.